Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining this Headmasters Roundtable. For many of you, your first Headmasters Roundtable. Tonight, we had an earlier Headmasters Roundtable for returning families, and this is for our new families, although some of you may be new and returning. In any event, we're thrilled to have you. I'm Zack Lehman. I'm the headmaster at the Hill School. I've met some of you, I'm sure, or certainly had communication with many of you. I am Zooming to you live from my home in Western Maine. As you can see, it's cold enough here for a fire. And I'm going for the top Zoom background award. So I have a live fire here. What could possibly go wrong? Please do let me know if you see the fire spill out into the room. In any event, I'm joined here tonight by our medical director, Dr. Kristen Spencer, who has muted her video, but she'll come on when it's time to answer some questions, any medical or health questions. And our goal tonight is really to update you on the year ahead, answer some specific questions that you might have, address sort of our plan for the year, and then take any remaining questions that you have. Hopefully, we will put your mind at ease about what's to come for the Hill School and for your children. And I know that this is new territory for many of you. And we've been at this for a while, and hopefully we will remember how we did things before COVID-19, and we'll get back to that. So without further ado, let me begin the presentation. If you have questions tonight, there are really three ways to get your questions answered, and we'll wait until the end to do questions, but you can start entering your questions earlier. You can put your question in the chat, which is the little chat symbol in the middle of your title bar, or you can use the Q&A function and type in your question. The main difference between those two, just so you know, is that everyone can see your chat, but only the panelists, Dr. Spencer and I, can see your Q&A question. So if it's something a little bit more private, I would suggest you put it in the Q&A. The third and most fun way to ask a question tonight or make a comment is to raise your hand. And if you use the little hand icon and raise your hand, I will call on you and we'll hear from you. And if you're really brave, we will even allow you to share your video. But you better have a good video background if you're going to do that. So in any event, let's get started. So our big theme, our very, very exciting theme for the coming year is a return to normalcy at the Hill School. And I know normalcy isn't usually very exciting, but for us, it's incredibly exciting. So here are just some of the sort of major components of our campus life that I wanted to review. Of course, there are many others, and you can expect that all of those will be going back to the normal state at the Hill. Of course, since you're new families, you may not know what all those things are, but you will learn them over time, and you can certainly ask about them. So first of all, I wanted to let you know that just like last year, we are offering, well, actually not just like last year, we are only offering in-person instruction next year. We are expecting all of our students to be on campus and to be, all of our teachers to be on campus and to have all instruction in person. There is no option to study remotely. Last year, we gave that option for a variety of reasons. We are not offering that at all this year, except for in the most dire circumstances, if a student is gravely ill or something like that and needs to leave campus for an extended period. We are trying to make sure that all of our students are in the classroom and learning in person. I hope you will agree with that goal. All of our dining is returning to the traditions at the Hill School, which are seated lunches in the dining hall, where our whole community comes together and sits in our beautiful Millhiser dining room. And then we will have our normal buffet meals for breakfast and dinner, plus one seated dinner on Tuesday nights in the fall and spring. That is a long-standing tradition at the Hill School. We're one of the few schools that still does seated meals every day. We are so excited to get back to that. Many students and parents have questions about athletics and club sports. I'm pleased to share that it is our plan and we intend to be back to normal athletics on campus with training, preseason, competition, travel, tournaments, spectators and fans on campus, and that our students will be allowed to participate in outside club sports as they were previously. It's not unlimited participation. It has to be a participation that doesn't interfere with your expectations on campus, and you have to receive permission from the dean's office and the athletic director. There's a process for that, which you'll come to learn. But because we're not offering remote options, there is not the option to take 2 weeks off to go train with your club team and take your classes remotely. So it's really limited to weekend or evening participation, depending on whether you're a day student or a boarder. All of our other co-curricular programs, such as theater, dance, and yearbook and debate, those will go back to normal. There are no restrictions. We intend to have our normal performances in person, competition, debate, and the like. There are a few new co-curricular programs that we implemented this past year due to some of the COVID restrictions that we're keeping. One example of that is our spin class. It was very, very popular last year, and we purchased all the bikes, so we're going to continue with spin. There are a few other examples of that. So students will be able to sign up for their fall, winter, and spring co-curricular activities. Our day students had some restrictions last year in terms of evenings and weekends and some meals. We do not anticipate any restriction to campus beyond the overnight access, which is obviously not part of the day student experience generally, although there are occasional overnights. So our day students will be back to normal access, which is exciting for everyone. Our parents will be welcomed on campus under sort of normal hours and visits as well. We will have Parents' Weekend. Our students will be granted leaves, day leaves or overnight or weekend leaves as per our normal policies. You have to check out through the dean's office and using the WAVE application, which our students and parents will come to learn how to use. But we're excited to give our students that flexibility and parents that access as well. For those of you who are parents of boarding students, our dormitories are going back to their normal state. This means that students will be able to access the entire dormitory, go room to room. They're not limited to a pod or what we call droves or flocks. Last year, common rooms will be fully open, no requirement of masking in the common rooms or anything along those lines. And students will be able to visit other boarding houses, dormitories, and day students will be assigned to dormitories in terms of being part of that community and also being able to visit their friends who are boarders. So that will free up our community a little bit and make us even more tight-knit community. As far as masking and COVID testing and any sort of similar restrictions along those lines, we don't anticipate much, if any, of this. To the extent there is any masking or COVID testing, it will be related to a potential resurgence of COVID-19 or a variant, perhaps for some students or employees who are unvaccinated in certain circumstances, quite limited. And certainly anyone who feels more comfortable wearing a mask can do that. And we may add some periodic testing from time to time if the rates in our region increase. Right now, they're very, very low, and we anticipate them dropping even further before the school year. We might use some mask, we might have some mask use for other illness. We were fortunate that our masking and physical distancing limited flu and colds, and so we may want to implement some masking in that circumstance as well. Food delivery was quite popular this year since our students really couldn't leave campus, our boarding students. We will get back to a pretty normal permissions for food delivery, although I will comment that we are somewhat restrictive on that anyway, just in terms of campus safety. We don't want DoorDash drivers driving through our beautiful campus and speeding along, getting lost and putting our pedestrians at risk. And we also think that there's some nutritional aspects of DoorDash that we want to avoid. So there may be some limits on that, but they're not COVID related. They're health and wellness related. We will get back to normal size activities and gatherings in the chapel, in the Center for the Arts, in the dining hall, other events in the gym and that sort of thing. As of right now, we don't expect any restrictions on gathering sizes on campus. On weeknights during study hall, we'll be back to normal here as well. The Student Center and Grill will be open. The Library and Quadrivium Center will be open for studying, collaborative work. And each form has different restrictions on where they can go in the evenings. Third formers are usually limited to their dorms until later in the year when they may be able to go to the library or to extra help. But that's just normal. So no COVID restrictions on weeknights. And lastly, not only are there no restrictions on outdoor spaces for next year planned, we are encouraging outdoor space use, and we're expanding options for our students. That was a real COVID keeper for us this past year, and we intend to do more of that this year. And I'll get to a few of those items in a minute. Moving ahead, I thought it would be helpful for everyone here, especially as new families, to just know a little bit about what our student body, excuse me, what our student body looks like for next year. And I'm giving you comparison statistics for 10 years ago. I've been fortunate to be the headmaster at Hill, now going into my 10th year, and we've seen a lot of growth in different areas of the school, and one of those is certainly in our student body. So we are over-enrolled for next year for a number of reasons, part of which includes our successful navigation of the pandemic. We will start the school year with approximately 548 students. That's our projected opening enrollment. For comparison, 10 years ago, our enrollment was just under 500. And even this year, we opened the school year with 519 students. Of course, this year, a percentage of our students were not on campus at any given time. Usually we average about 85% at any given time. So even at 519, we had only 450 students at any given time on campus. So 548 on campus all the time is going to feel full. And we've done some things to adjust for that, which I'll share in a moment. Our students, the caliber of our student body continues to improve. These are just two metrics that we use to track the quality of our students and the educational program at Hill. Our average SAT score for our sixth form, our seniors, continues to increase. Our matriculation to top 50 colleges was at an all-time high this past year, despite what you've probably read about the competitiveness of the college process. Hill students did fantastic. 38% of our students going to top 50 colleges compared to just 23% 10 years ago. And we hope that that will continue to improve. The percentage of our, we've been co-ed now for 21 years. And so we've been working towards a 50-50 boy-girl split. We haven't quite made it there yet, but we're getting closer at 46%. And the difference there is typically in what we call our postgraduate group, students who come for an extra year of high school. We usually have about 15 of those students, and they tend to be mostly boys. In any event, it feels like a co-ed school after 21 years for sure. Because we have increase in enrollment, we've also increased the percentage of our boarding students. We have 77% of our students will be boarders. Of course, many of you, or hopefully all of you, know that we have a one-year boarding requirement. So usually our sixth formers are on campus boarding. We did waive that last year for a handful of students. We're not waiving that this year. A point of emphasis for us has been increasing the diversity of our community, both our students and our faculty. And I'll talk about faculty next, but our students of color has increased to 39%, something we're quite proud of, and increases the overall diversity on campus in a number of ways. Our international students has grown also. We're at 22%. It's a little bit higher than normal. We're usually right around 19 or 20%. It's just the way things fell for the coming year. Also maybe part of the increase in enrollment as well. But some numbers behind that is, we have students from 32 different countries, I think, next year, in 30 states. So a very geographically diverse group of international students and domestic students. One thing we've always been proud of at the Hill is the number of our students, or percentage of our student body, that has a family connection to Hill, either through an older sibling or a parent or grandparent or uncle, cousin. And for next year, 26% of our students have a connection through a family member, which is exciting and is a bit unusual for boarding schools. So makes it a family boarding school. Our faculty has also grown and become even stronger in the past decade. Next year, We will have 109 full-time faculty members on campus. This year we had, I think, 102 or 103 full-time faculty. So this is an increase that is relative to the growth in enrollment. We hired additional teachers so that we would maintain our classroom size and student-teacher ratio in key areas like math and science and English, history, world languages, and the like. We also have 8, it's not shown here, but we have 8 interns for next year, which is many more than we usually only have 1 or 2. So we have 8 interns who will be helping out in the classroom and in the dormitories and with co-curriculars as well. So it will be a lot of support and supervision and mentorship from the adults in our community. Our faculty has been at Hill for a long time, most of them. We have a great retention rate. 90% of our faculty are returning from this past year. That is high in a normal year. That puts us in the very top 20% of boarding schools in the United States. But for this past year, where there's a lot of turnover due to COVID, we're so thrilled to have our experienced and veteran faculty back for next year. Very talented group of people. The average teaching experience among our faculty teachers is 16 years. Again, great experience, great familiarity with the classroom and all the other programs at the Hill. We've increased the percentage of female faculty at Hill over the last decade. It's actually a little bit higher than our student percentage of girls. So our female faculty at 55%, up from under 40%. And then again, a point of emphasis, our faculty of color is now nearing 20%. Still not as representative of our student body, but we're working on that as well, and excited to welcome a number of new faculty of color to the community for next year also. So what is next year going to look like? Well, since many of you didn't experience this year, but you probably read about how we navigated COVID in terms of our schedule, I just wanted to share with you what our calendar looks like. And this looks, with one exception, much like our normal calendar in years past, a trimester calendar that Hill has had for a number of years. This is an overview of the full year, and feel free to take a screenshot if it helps you, but you'll also get these dates in various mailings and emails, and they're also posted on our website. But just to walk you through it, this is an overview of the whole year, and then I will show you, I'll drill down on the first part of the school year that's pressing. So we have an arrival and preseason period that runs from August 23rd to September 6th. We then enter our fall trimester, which lasts, goes from September 7th to November 19th. At November 19th, we will break for Thanksgiving recess, and then we will have something called the HTerm, which we did this year after the Christmas holiday. We're moving it before the winter holiday this year, and I'll get into more detail on what that looks like. But from December 1st through the 17th is the HTerm. And then we come back after New Year's with our winter term from January 5th to March 11th, and then our spring term from March 30th to June 1st. And June 1st is the last day of classes for our underformers. Our sixth formers graduate and PGs graduate 1 week earlier on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. So let's drill down a little bit. Sorry. There we go. Let's drill down a little bit on the first part of the year. And I'll give you some key dates here as well. Again, all of these are on our website, but it's helpful to go through them. Our preseason for our varsity athletes, our fall varsity athletes, begins on August 23rd with the arrival of our football players who have a longer preseason due to state laws around heat acclimatization. And then our other fall preseason athletes arrive on August 26th. On September 2nd, we will invite our prefects, those are our student dormitory leaders, to come to campus because they help with the orientation of all of our new students. Some students will be invited for something that we started a few years ago called the Theater Boot Camp, which is sort of a 3-day intensive theater program run by our CFTA director, the magical Mr. McGriff, and they will have a performance on September 4th. One thing that we're doing differently this year is that we are inviting our third formers to arrive 5 days before the beginning of classes. Instead of a 2-day orientation, we're offering a 5-day orientation, mostly because there has been such a wide variety of learning experiences for our new 9th graders Some have been completely remote, virtual, some have been hybrid or high flex, some have been in person, and we really wanted to get all of those students off to a good start. So they'll be working with our core faculty and our prefects to get oriented to campus, to do some study skills, to have sort of a more gradual transition to campus, overcome any sort of social anxiety that they might have, and come together as a class. So we're excited about that. Our international students, our new international students, will arrive on September 4th. I know some of them will need to arrive earlier than that, and we'll make accommodations for them due to limited flights from certain countries. But if at all possible, we would like our international students new to arrive on September 4th, so they have an extra day to catch up on jet lag and that sort of thing, and move in. And then September 5th is the day for other new students, all 4th, 5th, and 6th form domestic boarding and day students. And that obviously, if you are there for pre-season, you will have already been on campus, but you will begin your orientation on September 5th. And then September 6th is our returning students. Our classes begin on September 7th, which is a Tuesday. The first weekend of school is what we call a closed weekend. That is a time when boarding students are not allowed to check out for the weekend. And we do that periodically throughout the year. About a third of our weekends are closed and 2/3 are open. And we do that to help build community. We want to make sure that those students who are coming from far away are not sort of abandoned every weekend because everyone's going home who can drive home. So closed weekends are fun. Even when we have open weekends, most of our students stay on campus. About 90% of our students typically stay on campus during open weekends. We will have Fall Parents Weekend in person on October 15th and 16th. That's a Friday, Saturday, and parents will have a chance to go visit classes and meet with teachers and advisors and dorm parents and see athletics. And there's a fall music festival, a great dinner, meet other parents. Right after the Fall Parents Weekend, after their last obligation on Saturday, which is usually a sports event, parents and students can get a long weekend, our fall holiday weekend through the 19th. The big weekend of the fall is always Lawrenceville Weekend. This year, it is at home. We are hosting the Larrys on campus from November 5th through the 7th. A few weeks later, we will break for Thanksgiving. And then we have the HTerm, which I'll talk about shortly. And then that is followed by the winter holiday recess. So there you have it. If you haven't taken a screenshot, it's a good time. Good visual there, especially like the turkey. Since most of you have not been part of the Hill community in the past, this won't be new or old to you, but we have decided to go back to our schedule that we had, our academic schedule that we had prior to COVID. Last year, to reduce the number of close contacts that a student would have, we moved to a modified block schedule where students had 3 or 4 classes a day and through different rotations. We are moving back to a schedule where students can have, they have 7 periods a day on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, 3 classes on Wednesday, 3 longer classes on Wednesday, and 4 longer classes on Thursday. And basically every class period meets 4 times per week. So that is this different schedule here. The HTerm, which I've mentioned now a few times, this we began this past year as a bit of a response to COVID, but it was also a response to our vision statement that we adopted 3 years ago, which was to provide authentic learning experiences to our students to help them orchestrate positive change throughout their lives. And so we created these real world, interesting, unique courses that our students took remotely for 6 weeks last year. Well, it was so well received that we are keeping it and of course modifying it to meet our new schedule, or our old schedule, I guess. We are requiring participation. Last year was optional, although about 85% of our students did participate. There are 3 types of participation, and you can just start thinking about this now. You don't have to make any plans as of right now. But most of our students will participate entirely on campus. And I highly recommend that for our new students, especially. On On campus, you'll have 2 intensive courses for that from December 1st through the 17th. And those will be longer blocks. There'll be a morning block and an afternoon block. And then you would then participate in your normal winter co-curricular program, whatever you've signed up for, or possibly a field study, which would be an extension of one of your intensive courses. So you might be taking a course on, one of our teachers may dream up a course around service learning. You take that course during the day, and then maybe you go out and do service in the afternoon. But most of our students will be doing their normal co-curricular. You'll be living on campus in your normal dorm. If you're a day student, you'll be coming to and from campus just like you normally would during that time period. Alternatively, students in any form may apply to be entirely off campus between December 1st and December 17th. So basically from when we break for Thanksgiving, and you wouldn't return to campus until after the winter holiday recess in early January. In this circumstance, you have to apply and you have to propose an independent program which will require more than 60 hours of work that's independently arranged. And it could be an internship, it could be a service learning program, it could be a independent study of some kind or project. You have to have an advisor who approves this and works with you, and it has to go through our HTerm committee. So this is open to anyone to apply for. Hopefully students will dream up some great ideas and get some terrific experience out in the real world. And this was part of the HTerm last year. We're also offering for 5th and 6th formers, our 11th and 12th graders, a hybrid option. They would live on campus and they would take one of the intensive courses, either in the morning or afternoon block. And then they would use the other block for either an on-campus independent study with an advisor, so their own self-designed program, or a local internship for which they have arranged self-arranged transportation. And so, again, you'd have to apply for this. It's only open to 5th and 6th formers, and the independent study or local internship would have to be more than 30 hours of work, since it's basically half of your HTerm commitment. If you are participating on a winter varsity team, or you're a member of the winter musical cast and crew, you must be on campus. You must be in that entirely on campus or hybrid group if you're in that group. Unless you get special permission from your head varsity coach or from Mr. McGriff, the expectation is that our winter season begins and you'll be there. And we will provide a lot more information about this, including course selection, course catalog, how to apply for these independent programs and projects or hybrid, and any other details beginning in September. No need to worry about this right now, but if you have ideas and you want to start networking over the summer, you now know the dates, December 1st through the 17th. So if you want to start looking for internships, or you want to think about an independent study and you're in that group, please, by all means, just put your thinking cap on, but no need to ask too many questions right now or send in applications or create commitments of any kind. Should be really exciting. There's a lot to do over the summer. We try to keep it organized. You should be receiving emails, if you haven't already, with checklists and dates and links for signing things up. There's a landing page for all of this, which you should have access to. It's also on My Backpack, which you should have received your My Backpack account for your child and for parents. But I'm just going to go over a few of the key items here. Students by July 7th have to indicate their initial preference for co-curricular activities for the fall, winter, and spring. That helps us start to plan. Student health forms will be due on July 15th. Those are completed by parents using Medicat, which is our electronic health record portal. You can upload your student health forms there and complete them there. That's new for us this year. We're excited to have that automated a little bit more. If you plan to bring a laptop from home, you need to have that approved by our ITS department for new students. That's on July 15th. You will be receiving, probably in the middle of July, a copy of the revised and updated school handbook, which includes our code of conduct. And we ask, and you'll get a letter that goes along with that from our Dean of Students and from me, which asks you to take the time, sit down with your child or children, and read through the handbook, especially the code of conduct, understand the expectations, have conversations about those expectations with your child, make sure you're on the same page with the school and with your child, ask any questions you have, make your own expectations of your children known, and then sign an acknowledgement that you've read and understand and have discussed this. It's something that I've done every year since I've been at Hill. I really believe strongly that being informed and understanding and acknowledging the expectations of the community make for an even stronger community. And we've come to rely on our students and our parents to uphold those standards, those very high standards that come along with being a Hill student and family. If you're coming to Hill from another high school, you'll need to, by September 1st, complete a release of information form that allows us to merge your transcript and grades and comments with our system. So please do that if you're transferring in it from another high school. And then there's an emergency contact and information check, which is due on September 1st. And just make sure we have all the correct updated information. If you've already loaded that up and things change over the summer, please make sure to update that. And then to help us plan for our spiritual life requirement on campus, we asked families to complete a religious background form just so we know what students are interested in doing to satisfy their their spiritual life requirement on campus. Now, when will we tell you some things? So everyone wants to know, when am I going to find out about my roommate and what dorm I'm living in, what my room is? So that will happen the week of August 2nd. You'll get an email and it will be loaded up onto my backpack, I think, as well. You'll have a chance to look at your roommate and contact your roommate and get to start knowing them as well. In the first 2 weeks of July, you'll hear your advisor assignment. This is the faculty member who will serve as both your academic and sort of just general life advisor next year, and hopefully for as many years as you're at Hill. And that is a very important relationship. And you'll hear directly from your advisor, who will reach out and introduce themselves and just start getting to know each other. Our online bookstore opens on July 19th. So obviously you'll know your classes by then, and you can start ordering your books and have them delivered either to you or to the school. And then your class, you will find out what classes you were selected for the first week of July. And so if you need to make any changes to that, you can contact Ms. Kim in the academic office. But you won't see your actual daily schedule, which periods you'll be in, which classes, and who your teachers will be until you actually arrive on campus. So those things sort of continue to change up until the last minute, and you'll get that the day you arrive. Moving right along, hopefully you all received an email from Dr. Spencer last week about our vaccination policy. This is obviously an important topic for all schools and residential schools and organizations and businesses right now. And we thought long and hard about this. We consulted with a lot of other schools and with our school attorneys and medical professionals. And in the end, we felt we came up with the most flexible policy, but also a policy that will keep our community safe. We were quite fortunate this past spring to be the first boarding school in the country to have an on-campus vaccination clinic for our students 16 and older, and that was followed by a clinic for our students that were 12 and older, 12 to 16, as well as our faculty members being vaccinated. We achieved 98% vaccination rate of our faculty. We achieved about a 75% vaccination of our entire employee base. 90% of our sixth formers, our seniors, were vaccinated, and total, our entire student body, we were just over 70% total vaccination by the time we left campus. And that made for a pretty incredible spring, especially for our sixth formers, who were really able to do just about everything that they would have done in a normal year in those final weeks of school. And that was a very special experience for them. For everything that I've talked about up until this point, this whole return to normalcy and a regular schedule and daily calendar and roommates and all of these things rely on a really high rate of vaccination on our campus. And it is our expectation, our express expectation, that all eligible community members will be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 by the time they arrive on campus. So that means if you're doing a two-shot program, that you get both shots plus 2 weeks. If you're doing the Johnson & Johnson shot, I think it's 1 shot plus 3 weeks. And so we hope that you'll all have that done by mid-August, so that when you arrive, you are fully vaccinated. We are offering 3 limited exemptions, which require an application form to be completed and sent to our vaccination review committee, which includes Dr. Spencer and others. And there are 3. The first is a medical contraindication to the vaccination, which means an allergic reaction, specifically to this type of vaccination, but it can be other medical contraindications as well. If you have specific questions about that, you can ask Dr. Spencer offline. If you have a sincerely held religious objection, you can provide information from either your primary care physician or your or your religious community leader about that. And those are sort of long-standing religious objections that you and your family may have had. And then lastly, before the FDA approves the vaccine completely, right now it's an emergency use authorization, we are allowing limited exemptions based on medical concerns related to personal or family history. However, once the FDA fully approves the vaccine for which your child is eligible, we expect everyone to be vaccinated within 30 days. So this exemption will go away once there's FDA full approval, which we don't know when that will happen, but we do imagine that will happen sometime during the upcoming school year. And this exemption will not be available in future years for sure. And again, there's a 30-day expectation after the full approval. And our goal is to get as close to 100% vaccination among our student body. We know we won't be fully 100%, but we certainly hope to do better than our 70%, which was just a strong encouragement. We'd like to be in the 90% range if we can. And that makes everything work at Hill next year. If you are granted an exemption, there will be some limited inconveniences that you may have to endure, such as periodic testing, maybe masking in some group settings if the rates increase around Pottstown, maybe some limitation to certain common spaces, but it won't be, they won't feel like the kinds of restrictions that we've had last year, and hopefully there won't be many of them. However, this is one that's really important, which is if you live more than 500 miles away from campus, so if you're a domestic or international boarder whose primary residence is over 500 miles away from campus, you have to submit a form providing a reliable host or guardian who will come to campus and it lives within 3 hours of campus to remove the student from campus if they have to isolate because they are test positive for COVID-19, or they have to quarantine because they've been in close contact with someone who tested positive for COVID-19. We have rapid testing on campus, so we'll be able to very quickly determine if a student is tested positive. And we will not be able to provide on-campus quarantine or isolation facilities next year. We just can't do it. And so that is one of the expectations if you are granted an exemption. We know that there's a number of international families on the call tonight. Thank you for joining us at this late hour, I guess this early hour for some of you. We know that there's going to be some difficulty, especially for those under 18 to receive vaccinations in their home country. So if you can arrive early and have a place to stay before the school year begins, please come and be vaccinated. We will do our best to help you. It's pretty easy right now around Pottstown to receive a vaccination. We can help you with that. So you would have sort of a short-term exemption for that kind of thing, and we can work with you, but we would expect you to be vaccinated as soon as possible once entering the United States. And then this year we also will be requiring, like we did last year, a flu shot for all community members. There are even fewer exemptions for flu shot, that just for the medical contraindication or sincerely held religious beliefs because it has full FDA approval. Generally speaking, the flu shot is available in late September, early October, and we provide a flu shot clinic on campus. And so just nothing you have to do over the summer, but just understand that the expectation is that you will complete the flu shot during the next school year. So one of the reasons that we're hosting this event tonight and trying to get as much information out and as many questions answered as possible is that our administration is going into a bit of a hibernation in July, what we're calling the quiet period. We are trying to limit inbound and outbound communication, questions, comments, that sort of thing. As it has been for everyone on the planet, it's been a long 15 months. Our team has admirably and dutifully kept the school open and running and had made many sacrifices of their time and personal life and family life as well. And so we're asking our families to understand and support that. And please give everyone just a bit of a break for the month of July. You'll hear from us. You'll get some sort of standard emails. I've mentioned some of the dates and information dates already. So those will come. But the small questions, where do I get my books, or when am my roommate information coming, or why am I in this class or not in this class, those kinds of things, please just give us a chance and wait until early August for those questions. And we won't pepper you with a lot of information either, because I think everyone deserves a bit of a quiet period. We've also compiled what we believe are the most important piece of information, pretty exhaustive, on this website below. So you can take a screenshot there, thehill.org/families/summer-2021-FAQS. And so those are all organized by different areas of school life. So if you need to know where to get a blazer, or what seated meals are like, or do the dorms have air conditioning, those kinds of questions are all answered there. If you have a genuine emergency, there is a link and an email address on that page, which is a general email address, which is going to be sent to a rotating administrator during that month, and they will get back to you quickly. But if it's a question that can wait, thank you for just giving us this grace of a month, so we can all catch up on our lives and our families. A few interesting notes about campus projects that are going on this summer. I mentioned before that we are over-enrolled this year by about 30 students, more than we had last year. And they're a higher percentage of boarding students. So we purchased a dorm. Apparently you can buy dorms. We bought a modular construction dorm, which will go on the site of our modular classrooms, which are being removed as we speak. This is actually our old ice hockey rink. And this will house 28 girls in the 5th and 6th form, and 2 faculty members, Miss McConney and Miss Taylor, will live there. And again, for 5th and 6th form girls, it has air conditioning. It's brand new and will look even nicer than this. It will fit in with our campus aesthetic and be landscaped. And it's a great location, right next to the gym, next to the Dell, and close to the CFTA. So exciting times there. We are also renovating and restoring the class of 1971 garden, currently known as the Headmaster's Garden. Some of you have visited this space before. This past year, it became our student center with fire pits and outdoor furniture and a big tent. Our class of 1971, who are celebrating their 50th reunion, really loves this space on campus. It's special to them. And so they have fundraised, and it will be restored to its original state when it was built in the early 1900s. And also an addition of a permanent pergola with a wood fireplace and lots of seating. I think this will be quite a popular space. It will open in the late fall. We are also opening the Warner Center for Spiritual Life and Equity. This is a small building behind Dutch Village, one of our dormitory areas on the west side of campus. This will house our Dean of Spiritual Life and Equity, Reverend Adams. Her office is there, but it also has meeting space and sort of casual lounge space for students to meet and talk about issues of spiritual life and DEI, things that come under Reverend Adams' auspices, but also to celebrate holidays and events. There's a full kitchen, there's a barbecue area outside, and so we think this is going to be a very popular place for our students to gather. And last but not least, this is not actually underway quite yet. We are we're about midway in our fundraising for a new dormitory village, which will begin construction, we hope, this spring and be open in the fall of 2023. So for some of our new students in the third form, it will be open in their fifth form year. This will house 48 students in 4 different houses and 6 faculty members. And will also include a large common area, a student learning resource area, and then small kitchen common rooms in each of the 4 houses. We can't wait for this to come to our campus, and to be determined whether it will house boys, girls, upper formers, underformers. If our enrollment stays at 550, we will certainly need additional space. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I see we already have a lot of questions in the Q&A box. My fire is dying down behind me, but that's okay. Again, there are 3 ways to ask questions, and I'll just remind you of those, and then we'll get to them right away. One is to put them in the Q&A, and only Dr. Spencer and I can see the Q&A box, so we'll protect your privacy there. If you don't mind everyone seeing your question or comment, you can put it in the chat box. And then if you are brave enough, and we hope a few of you will be, please raise your hand and we will call on you and we can hear your beautiful voice. And if you'd like, we can even share your video. So Dr. Spencer, would you join me on the screen? There she is. Dr. Spencer, for those of you who haven't met Dr. Spencer, Kristen is our medical director. She's a MD with a lot of emergency room and hospital administration experience, and has been at the Hill in her most recent stint for 2 years, although the second year lasted for a decade. And before that was on campus, what, seven years before that?
Correct.
Has 4 children, 3 of whom have graduated from the Hill and 1 to go, right? A 5th former, rising 5th former, David. Her husband is also a math teacher and our head swim coach on campus, and they will be living in Dell dormitory next year, so maybe dorm parents to some of our new 3rd form students. So without further ado, want to get to some questions, Dr. Spencer?
Sure.
Here we go. All right, quarantine questions. No need to quarantine for the vaccinated students or all of them when they return to campus. True or false?
True, no need.
No need. If you have been vaccinated, there is no need to quarantine. Dear Mr. Lehman, since there is still not enough flights from Shanghai to the US, we will have to fly to the school earlier. What are we supposed to do if we arrive on the campus earlier than September 3rd? So you will soon, all of our international families, I know this is an issue since the flights are still limited. Hopefully that will maybe change. You will soon be receiving an email from Helen Cho. Helen is our international family liaison, and she does a great job with our international families. And she will get all the information that you have, and we will make arrangements for students who have to arrive a few days early to come to campus. You might not be in your actual dorm room, since that may be in use at that moment by our preseason athletes, but we have a few facilities on campus to accommodate students. And it will be similar to what we did in previous years with our pre-arrival, not previous years, last year with our pre-arrival quarantine, although it won't be restricted. So you won't have to stay in the dorm and have your meals in your room and that sort of thing. It'll be much more normal, and it'll just be a longer period to acclimate. And there'll be some activities and time, but it won't be our normal orientation period. So we will certainly accommodate that and make it work for all of our families. But thank you for doing your best to arrange a flight as close to September 3rd as possible. Hello, my child will be in the 3rd form. What's the process of preseason sports with soccer and tryouts? Is it just for varsity students? Thank you. It is so preseason sports for all sports, including soccer, is for those who are trying out or have been invited to try out for varsity. It doesn't mean that everyone who comes to preseason will make the varsity team, but you will be invited by the coach. Usually students who are at that level are known to the coaches, and you will be invited by the coach. If you think you should have been invited, but you weren't, please feel free to reach out to our athletics director, Mr. Alberg, or if you know the coach, and you can find the coach's information on our website, you can reach out to that coach, and they may schedule a conversation to understand your child's level of competitiveness better and experience as well. But it is generally for varsity athletes and sort of varsity capable athletes, I guess is the best way to describe it. So that's where we are there. Dear Mr. Lehman, for early third form arrivals, are they allowed to stay in the dorm arriving on August 30th, 31st? Thank you. Again, we don't know that for sure just yet. They will have a room. They will be safe. They will be supervised. It may not be in their long-term room. It may be in one of our temporary rooms, or they may all be in one dormitory that's empty and then move to another dormitory, their permanent dormitory. All right, this is a question for you, Dr. Spencer. You ready? Okay, we find at the Hill Medical Portal, there are only 3 blanks in COVID-19 immunization record. That is Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and Moderna. Do you accept other COVID-19 vaccines like Sinovac and Sinopharm in China, which are both approved by the WHO? Of course, by now, these 2 are not available for children under 18. If these 2 were not available before the student's departure for the Hill, we would prefer to let the student be vaccinated at the Hill. So sort of
Okay, so yeah, 2 parts there. If you do have a vaccine record, if the child has been vaccinated, go ahead and upload that under miscellaneous documentation, and we can fill in the dates as we build some of these other parts of the portal and the electronic health record. We definitely would like to encourage you to get your child vaccinated, if at all possible, before the child arrives on campus. That helps protect the student and our other students on campus as well. But if there's absolutely no way to get that done, then we will help you by having the child go to a local pharmacy shortly after arrival to begin the vaccination process.
Great. And there's a few other questions like that in this, so I don't think we'll cover that. But again, if you can be vaccinated in your home country, we are accepting the WHO vaccinations. If you can't be vaccinated because of your age or because it's not available for whatever reason, we will help you with the vaccination process once you arrive in the US. So it's, again, we would prefer that you arrive fully vaccinated. So if that's possible, please do that. And we're also still waiting to hear about whether you can have 2 vaccinations, right, Dr. Spencer? Whether you could get the Sinovac plus, Pfizer or J&J.
Correct, and some of that's going to be timing, how long it's been from the previous vaccine, and we're going to rely on our public health experts to guide us through that as that situation unfolds with a number of students arriving from international locations.
All right, great. An old-fashioned question pre-COVID. How much do you suggest to deposit into the school debit card account? That's a great question. I generally suggest whatever you think a student's going to need for the fall term. So especially if you're using a wiring account, there's fees. And every family has different expectations and abilities in terms of debit card. Remember, and this is Dr. Spencer's favorite part of our campus, the dining hall is fantastic. So, don't let students tell you that they need to have DoorDash every night, because they don't. But students will want to eat in the grill and order an occasional pizza or go on a school, weekend trip or something like that. So whatever you think is an appropriate allowance for your child, I would put in, either at least a month's worth of that, or maybe the full fall term. Dr. Spencer, do you have a rule of thumb for your kids in their debit account?
I don't, because our kids were day students for most of their time at Hill, so they had access to us at all times. Yeah, I'm not the one to answer that.
I'd have to ask Mrs. Lehman, but I think she had a rule. It was like their age times 2, but I can't remember if that was per month. I don't remember. All I know is I get Venmo requests for my kids still, and they're in college or beyond. So in any event, moving on. Will parents be allowed to stay and help third formers set up their dorms on September 3rd? And if so, is there a time limit? Is the expectation that parents leave on September 3rd and not return the following few days to see their child? Let me answer the second part of that question first. The answer to that is yes. Once September 3rd is over, we hope, or we expect and require you to leave campus and not return. Part of the boarding school experience is that independence and self-reliance. And so if you're still there every day, they don't acclimate as well, and they don't sort of embrace and engage in the community. There will be time on the 3rd for you to help your child move in. One of the things we learned in COVID is that we actually had parents arrive and help set up their room before September 3rd if they were local enough to do so. I don't know if Mr. Jenikis is planning to do that again this year, but we'll find out and we'll get you that information. But there'll be lots of people to help set up the rooms on September 3rd. The prefects and the dorm parents will be there. All of those boxes from your car will be magically whisked into their room. Please, do stick around, help them make their bed, set up their room a little bit. But we'll have a schedule for parents and an orientation schedule for parents as well. So yes, you will be asked to leave on that day. All right, we have a hand up, Dr. Spencer. That's always fun. Ready? All right, Junlin Fong. Junlin, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. Who's this?
This is Junlam. Sorry, I'm driving, and so I cannot type. So ask this question.
Where are you calling from?
I'm Beijing.
All right. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you. With lots of information, I copy all the screens.
Great.
A few quick questions. One is, does Hill have further regulations on digital device use on campus for students? That's the first one. Second is for international students, it's quite limited to what to pack on the flight to school. So I wonder, can we expect certain guidance on what to pack? And if it's since the space is limited, I wonder if we can buy certain necessities shipped to the school. Is that possible?
Sure. Great questions.
Okay.
So first, the digital device. There are some limitations on digital device usage on campus. And that depends a little bit on a student's age or grade. So we have different hours for when students can use their device. Generally speaking, our younger students may not use their devices during study hall and after lights out or their bedtime. So they will leave their device in the hallway charging while they're in study hall and in the evening. And then for all of our students, there are restrictions on where they can use their devices on campus. So you may not use your device in the dining hall or in the chapel or in the classroom unless it's part of the classroom experience. And also, if you're in a group of students or walking on campus, you may not be on your device. So we generally are trying to create proper etiquette and also be able to focus on your academic work and also be respectful of the space and people around you. As far as your second question goes, it's very helpful to know. I didn't know that there were as many restrictions on luggage as today, but that makes total sense. And I know that many parents cannot travel with their students due to the F1 visa issue. Number one, bring as much as you can, but don't worry about it. Second, I always say don't bring so much because students will acquire a lot over their time at Hill. And so it's always good to start small and grow your wardrobe and personal items as well. There will be, because our international students will arrive a day early, there'll be a chance to go on a shopping trip locally to some of the local department stores and pick up any necessities. And then we do accept, you can have things shipped in advance, whether through Amazon or another delivery service to campus, and those will be waiting for a student in their dorm room when they arrive.
Thank you.
Yep.
I wanted to add to that, there is a packing list online on our website. So that'll give you a little guidance on what's suggested.
Okay, that'd be cool. So I was searching for the packing list. I didn't find it on the site, but thank you for that information.
Sure, and that will also be included in upcoming mailings. And when you hear from Helen, she can also point you in the right direction. There are some items for international students that may be different than domestic students in terms of bedding and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Yep. Nice talking to you. Have a great day. I should have started with the traditional Beijing greeting. Beijing greeting. I should have said Chilima.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's quite early morning.
Dr. Spencer,
Okay.
Chilima means have you eaten?
Ah.
And it's a traditional greeting in Beijing, not all across China, but just in Beijing. So I'm very cool when I say Chilima. Thank you, Junlin.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. 3 questions, rapid fire. Number 1, is there a blazer requirement for 5th formers? No. Number 2, the items to bring, not to bring isn't clear whether a desktop computer is permitted. Yes, a desktop computer is permitted, but I think there's a limit on the monitor size. And 3, how do bathrooms work in the dorms for 5th formers? Bathrooms in the dorms work the same for all students, which is there are bathrooms on every floor in the dormitory. And there are several shower stalls and bathroom stalls and sinks. And students usually have a sort of a toiletry kit, which they can either store in the bathroom or in their room and bring it to and from the bathroom. We don't have private bathrooms in each dorm. Okay, what does the drop-off day look like for parents? Do we stay on campus once our student is moved in? So Dr. Spencer comes from a military family, so I'm not going to let her answer this question. But we generally have sort of a process. We have an orientation for the students. We have a separate orientation for the parents. There's some activities together, like meeting with the advisor and dorm parents. And then we sort of get the students going off in a different direction with the prefects and getting to know their classmates and dorm mates. And then we bring the parents to a headmaster's reception where we help you separate from your child, and we have a good time and we wish you well. So that's basically the day. Do you remember any salient moments from your first drop-off day, Dr. Spencer?
I really don't. It's been a long time since Jackie was a 3rd former.
Yes, for sure. Okay, are spring athletes expected to stay on campus for spring recess, March 11th through the 29th, varsity only or all team members? So the answer to that is no. We do not keep spring athletes on campus. We have in past years had preseason trips for spring athletes, like the lacrosse team will go to Florida, or the baseball team will go to Hilton Head, or something like that. We're not quite sure what travel is going to look like next year, so I don't want to commit to anything just yet. But we may have a preseason on campus in the spring and that sort of thing. So that's where we are. Next question. If I am unable to get a medical exemption and I'm not getting vaccinated, what do you suggest that we do? Thank you. Dr. Spencer, do you want to take that question?
So if you're not getting vaccinated, I'm presuming that's because it was not available then, if there has not been an application for an exemption. In that case, once you arrive, we would help you get vaccinated very, very soon after arrival.
Right. Okay. Due to an unexpected death in our family, we missed my backpack registration along with academic course selection. How can we fulfill these requirements before July 1? So I would send an email tomorrow directly to Bo Kim and Marco Rothling, and I'm just going to spell their email addresses right now, and you can take care of that. So it's bkim@thehill.org and MROETHLING at thehill.org. That's Marco Rothling and Bo Kim. They're in our academic office, and they will help you with both of those things. And I will ask Ms. Baumgarten to put those email addresses in the chat while we're talking. Hello, can you please address dress code requirements? Well, it would take a good hour to give you the full rundown here, but generally speaking, there are 3 dress codes at Hill. There's an academic dress code, there's academic casual, and there's casual. Casual, pretty much the sky's the limit. That's sort of in the dorm, weekends. That's sort of up to you. I'm not going to tell you casual. Academic casual, roughly speaking, is a collared shirt like a shirt I'm wearing now, and khakis or shorts if it's allowed because of the weather, and regular shoes, not dress shoes, but like sandals or sneakers. The thing that usually is most complicated is what we call academic dress, which is the school day dress, which is effectively for boys, coat and tie, dress pants, khakis, slacks, that sort of thing, no denim, a dress shirt, a button-down dress shirt, a tie, and a blazer or sports jacket, and dress shoes, so leather shoes, not sneakers. For girls, it's basically the same minus the tie, and you can add skirts and some dresses, although it changes a little bit year to year. All of that will be spelled out in granular detail in the in the handbook and code of conduct, which you'll receive in early July or mid-July. And it's also on our website if you want to get started on that. But you can send those questions to the Dean of Students if you'd like, but you should be okay with a couple pairs of dress pants, some blazers, a tie or two, and go from there. Good? All right. Hello, I'm an international student from China. I cannot get vaccinated. Will I still need to quarantine on campus? Dr. Spencer, we didn't address the quarantine question.
So we are not expecting a quarantine upon arrival. We are likely to have a little modified quiet period for the first couple of days that might, most likely would involve close contact in athletics more than anything else. But again, if you just have not been able to vaccinate prior to arrival, we would help you do that as soon as we can. And we may have some testing requirement based on vaccination status for those early days after arrival as well.
Thanks, Dr. Spencer. Oh, I like this question. What is the scenario with Saturday classes? So we got rid of Saturday classes about 3 or 4 years ago. There is only one day of Saturday classes in the entire school year, and that's Parents' Weekend. And those are our sort of abbreviated classes. So no Saturday classes, which changes how we use Friday nights. There are expectations on Saturday, especially on closed weekends. But if you're in a co-curricular program that has Saturday competitions or rehearsals or the like, you are expected to be there. And if it's a closed weekend, you need to be there on Saturdays. But there are a lot of activities that happen on the weekends, and we'll get to that maybe in a bit. Is my entire immediate family of 5, including me, allowed to come on moving day, or only parents? Bring them all, Lily. You can bring as many people as you'd like, but they all have to leave at the end of the day. I can tell you it's not that exciting for the little siblings and grandparents and that sort of thing. It's really designed for your parents and for you. But feel free to bring whoever you need to bring, especially if you have people that can lift heavy boxes. That's always a good reason to bring some others along. Do day student parents attend any of the registration process on the 3rd, and then any orientation activities on 9-4 and 9-5? Yes, day student parents, if you're coming with your 3rd former, if you're a day student parent, you will do your orientation on the first day that the day students arrive. You will not come back for the later orientation. It'll be just a 3rd form day student orientation and parent orientation. If your child is coming for preseason athletics, we'll do sort of an abbreviated orientation when you drop them off for preseason, and you are invited back on their first day, which is whether it's the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th. Okay. Can you please explain in more detail the restrictions that will be placed on a child who requires a vaccine exemption? Dr. Spencer, do you want to share a little more detail there of some of our thoughts on that?
Yeah, a lot of that's going to depend on the trajectory of the pandemic. Right now, everything's looking very reassuring locally and regionally around the Hill School. So we're going to be watching very carefully for what our case count's looking like in the fall. Are cases starting to show an uptick? Are we starting to see a concerning variant emerge? We're really going to be watching closely and adapting to some extent around that. We'll use testing. We have great capacity for testing on campus, both antigen and PCR testing. So we'll be focused primarily on symptomatic students, but we also may put in some surveillance testing if there's an uptick again. So we may use some masking if it looks like an uptick. Masking for unvaccinated students in select settings. We're really focused on the students' experience, on the students, but first on the students' health. So anything that we can do to be reasonably protective of our campus health is going to be an avenue we're going to explore depending on what happens in the fall and the winter.
Let me add two things, Dr. Spencer. I think I said it earlier, although these two sessions are blurring together. I've been trying to describe these less as restrictions and more as inconveniences. The way we operated last year was restrictions, right? We had to physically distance, we all had to mask, we all had to test regularly, we had to, distance ourselves in classrooms and so on and so forth. In this case, it will be more of an inconvenience. The core of the student experience will not be, unless everything changes, which we don't expect it will not be interfered with. So it may be an inconvenience. And we simply can't avoid that because we also have people in our community that are unvaccinated for other reasons. They may be unvaccinated for medical reasons. They may be a faculty child who's under 12. And so we still are taking a risk if someone is a carrier for COVID or infected. And so we have to just keep that in mind, that our community is broader than one person or even our 548 students. It also includes our faculty, our families, our day student families, and many others who have regular contact with our community. And so I think that that's just important to keep in mind. And we have done a very good job of evolving and pivoting with the science and with the conditions over the past year. We know how to do it. And we have been able to maintain a very high student experience even with COVID. So we don't expect there to be major restrictions, and I hope you can just think of it more as inconveniences unless there's a major change in public health. Okay, a more benign question, laundry. How is that handled? Washing machines, dryers in the dorms, dry cleaning services that will pick up in return. Yes, yes, yes. We do it. Every dormitory has washers and dryers in the dormitories, and we also offer a laundry service, which includes fluff and fold as well as dry cleaning. And there's a cost for that, which is you'll get a form for selecting whichever one you want. My kids were never allowed to come home and do their laundry, Dr. Spencer. How about yours?
Oh, they came home.
They tried. They did the first couple of weeks, then we sent them back to the dorm. They did it themselves. Okay, can we pre-order for delivery prior to September 3rd, larger items like bedding and toiletries? I think the answer to that is yes. You'll have information about that in the pre-arrival email. Will the school help students prep for the SATs? We do offer SAT prep. We have an on-campus version and we have an online version. And you can sign up for those through the college counseling office. There's different fees for the different programs. So you can reach out to the director of college counseling for that at an appropriate time. When dropping off kids, can parents come into the dorms or just drop them off outside? Nope, come on inside and we should be good there. What is backpack registration? Okay, My Backpack is our student portal. And that's where all of your student information is, where your academic information is, scheduling, contact information, emergency contact information. It's basically a student's email address and account. And so if you haven't signed up for My Backpack, again, look in the chat. You can reach out to Mr. Rothling and he will get you set up. Everyone has been set up for My Backpack, unless you were just admitted a day or two ago. And you have that waiting for you. It's just a matter of getting your password and credentials. Okay, so there's a follow-up question, Dr. Spencer. If we are unable to get an exemption approved, and I am choosing not to get vaccinated, what should I do? I guess that's more a question for me. So the answer to that is you should withdraw from the Hill School. Our expectation is that unless you are approved for an exemption, that you will be vaccinated. It's part of how we're keeping our community safe, and it's our policy. So that is our expectation. There you go. What are the restrictions on sports for non-vaccinated students? Again, if you're approved for an exemption and you're unvaccinated, there are unlikely to be any restrictions on sports or club activities, club sport activities. Some of that may not come from us. one of our leagues may require them, one of our opponents may require something, club sports may require something, but in general, we don't expect there to be much in the way of that. There may be a quiet period. Dr. Spencer, do you want to talk about that for a second?
So as students arrive from all corners of the globe, we may have a brief modified quiet period to just watch and test and make sure our unvaccinated students are healthy before we put them in close contact with especially our invasion sports, football, water polo, soccer, some of those where there's a lot of close contact. So I just anticipate a very early first couple of days as we're making sure we're in good shape from a community health standpoint before we launch people fully into those really close contact situations.
Thank you. If I'm going to do the theater boot camp, will I move into the dorms on the 2nd or the 3rd? Oh, so now you're asking me to remember what all the dates were. Hold on a second. Assuming that you're a boarding student, because day students will not move into the dorm for the theater boot camp. I'm going back to my dates here. Hold on a second. If you are a theater boot camp participant, you will move in on September 2nd. So even if you're a third former, if you've been invited to the theater boot camp, you will arrive on the 2nd. You should confirm that with Mr. McGriff when you're invited. Okay, sorry for another follow-up on the computer question. I see that the screen size limit is 27 inches. Can you have 2 monitors as long as they are less than 27 inches? It's often easier to do research on one, writing on the other with 2 monitors. Well, Peter, I feel your pain. I have 3 monitors on my desk. I don't know the answer to that question. It's a good question to reach out to Mr. Genikis. Oh, you just got the question. You got the answer there. So next question. With the lack of long-term data on effects of these new vaccinations, I'm reluctant to allow the vaccination. I am not an anti-vaxxer, but somewhat cautious when it comes to my child. How does Dr. Spencer feel about a guarantee that the long-term effect of these vaccinations doesn't lead to long-term maladies?
I think a guarantee is a word I would not use on anything. I think there is, time will tell. I am reassured by what I know about these vaccines and the mechanism through which they act. But I do think the science, the longitudinal studies are very important for our overall knowledge of how these work and how they play out. That's why we're allowing the 3rd option while these are under emergency use authorization. So until the FDA has full confidence that these are fully approved vaccines, we've left a little wiggle room for our families there who are uncomfortable. Now, that said, Mr. Lehman is correct that our campus health, our ability to operate a residential community as a full experience is dependent upon as many people being vaccinated as possible. I personally vaccinated very early in January. I have 3 of my children who have received the Pfizer vaccine. I have no concerns in terms of withholding the vaccine from my own loved ones. I think we sometimes are quick to downplay the risk to young people of getting this disease, which it can be a systemic vasculitis and affect heart and lung and kidneys and brain and really have some long-term implications as well. So no guarantees with any of it. I do think while there's a pandemic afoot and the whole world had to stop essentially, that I'm relying on a lot of experts whom I trust, some really smart people working in the fields of immunology and virology and public health epidemiology who have really looked at the data firsthand and studied all the test results and have themselves been willing to vaccinate their family members. So, looking at risk benefits, I do believe the benefit of vaccination outweighs the risks at this point. But again, nothing's a guarantee. Thank
you, Dr. Spencer. If my son is a football player and arriving from Canada for August 23rd, is that the day he would be moving into the dorms? Yes, correct. If for some reason he absolutely needs to arrive the day before because of the international travel, please be in touch with the athletic director and the coach, and they'll help you. Hello, Mr. Lehman and Dr. Spencer. I would like to pay the balance of my son's tuition before you all take your quiet period. Will this be available to fulfill on my backpack soon? I don't think there's anything stopping you from paying tuition anytime. And certainly, I just need to explain, we're not closed during the quiet period. We're just trying to sort of limit some communications. So our business office is open, and you can reach out to Ms. Norman in the business office to pay your tuition. And my backpack will still be active throughout the month of July. And if that's when the tuition information comes out, it'll be up there and you can access that. So we are not closing off our bank account or anything like that during that time. So should be okay there. Okay, we have a couple questions in the chat, Dr. Spencer, and we'll get to those now. First of all, there's a compliment. I feel very grateful to you, Dr. Spencer, and to me. That's very nice of you. What does a typical weekend look on campus for boarders? On campus for boarders? There is no typical weekend on campus for boarders. We have an amazing weekend activities team. This year we had so many activities because we basically couldn't leave campus, but there is a mix of on-campus and off-campus activities and trips, lots of athletics and games and dorm events, music, food, field trips, hiking, shopping, brunch in the dining hall, movie nights, performances, you name it. It's a pretty robust weekend activity time period, and day students can join us for just about all of that as well. So should be fun. We did a lot of stuff outdoors last year, Dr. Spencer. Hopefully we'll continue doing that. We have a bike share. We have the Headmaster's Garden, which is open. So all good. Okay, is the first weekend that allows for parents to visit or kids to come back home after Parents' Weekend? No, I don't have it in front of me, but basically you can visit your children pretty much any weekend. We don't encourage it in the first few weeks of school, but you can come to their athletic competitions or performances or just come for a visit. Students may not go home until the first open weekend, which I think is approximately, don't hold me to this, 3 weeks into the school year. Usually the first 2 weekends are closed weekends, and then students can come home. Again, we discourage it because they're still meeting people and getting to know the community, and there's so many activities and so much happens on the weekends, and they're still doing their homework for the school week ahead, and they're participating in sports. So I would encourage you to maybe visit for a couple of hours in those weekends rather than bring children home. It's part of the boarding school experience. That's my advice, having done this for a long, long time. Are siblings allowed on Parents' Weekend? Yes. Again, it's not that exciting for siblings, but they're certainly allowed, and we see a lot of them. Are we permitted to bring a mattress for our child? I've never had that question, Dr. Spencer. Do you know the answer?
I don't.
I definitely have seen mattress toppers in my time. Certainly if there's a health reason, you may bring a mattress, I would guess. Our mattresses are pretty good and new, and you certainly can't bring a mattress that's larger than a twin XL bed. So if you're trying to bring a larger bed, that won't fly. But you can maybe ask that question to the wellness office, to the community life office. Dr. Spencer, a question from a family in Dubai. To return to Dubai, a PCR test certificate is required. Can the on-campus PCR test center provide a PCR certificate? The test needs to be no more than 72 hours old in terms of turnaround of the test results.
Yeah, I paused for just a second. We did that for a lot of our students leaving campus in May. We ran into some problems with the airlines, just really finicky gate agents, to the point where I was in the office at 11 o'clock at night, reprinting, editing, updating reports to make every single specification match exactly what they were looking for. So what I'm trying to say is we technically can do that. We may actually use our local public health laboratory to provide that service because of the issues that we ran into. But one way or the other, we will help your student get what they need to be able to board that plane.
And for what it's worth, it's quite possible that come Christmas, that won't be required anymore.
Right.
Possible. All right. Hello, we're an international student. How can we get a local United States SIM card for our mobile phones? Will you have any help and advice? Thank you. Absolutely. During the registration process, we usually have some local mobile phone vendors on site who will help you with that. So there you go. Thank you very much. Great information. Happy summer, Dr. Spencer. I am a parent of a that wasn't the end of the, that was just a comment. I am a parent of a vaccinated student who is playing sports this season, presumably this fall. Will the students who are not vaccinated be mandated to be regularly tested for COVID? Again, the answer to that is probably not. I guess things will depend on the conditions at the time when the school year begins, and whether any of our leagues or opposing schools require that. It was required this past year. We did that before every major competition for our invasive sports. But we don't expect having to do that. It may happen. It may be required of certain leagues. The good news is we have that on campus. It's pretty unobtrusive, and we can do that pretty quickly for our students if needed. Okay, I now have 2 questions back in the Q&A box. Getting it all done before the quiet period, Dr. Spencer, all the questions answered. I am an incoming 5th former. Is there a certain time that the Wi-Fi cuts off in the dorms? Yes. It's usually about an hour after your bedtime, whichever your bedtime is. But don't hold me to that. But it's roughly speaking, yes. Is the flu shot required before arriving at school in September, or will the flu shot be arranged during the fall term? Dr. Spencer?
We offer a flu shot clinic to our students on campus. Usually it's first week of October or so. So plan to have the flu shot administered on campus.
Great. All right, my first question. How does Hill support students that get homesick? I'll take a stab at that, and then you can give the medical advice, Dr. Spencer. So first of all, we keep you very busy, number one. From the moment you arrive, we're gonna keep you busy. We're gonna introduce you to a lot of people. There's gonna be a lot of people in your life that are supporting you, teachers, dorm parents, advisors, coaches, your prefects, your classmates, the headmaster's dog. They're all there to keep you happy and feeling included. It's not unusual for people to be a little bit homesick, especially if you've not been away from home or if you're far away from home. There's lots of people to talk to. We have a fantastic counseling staff that you can meet with. Your advisors are usually pretty capable in those kinds of conversations, as are your dorm parents and your prefects. We have some special training on that. And one great thing to do is not, as a parent, is to not sort of smother your child with calls every day and expect to hear from them every day. Give them that distance that they need to adjust. Sometimes it's more the parents that are child sick than the students who are homesick. And I say that with lots of love. Dr. Spencer, can you add?
Oh, I think that's great. I think there's so many resources where a student can reach out. The roommate's a really important resource. Dorm parent advisor, I agree with you. There are so many layers of protection. We are all just wrapping our arms around these kids, trying to help them acclimate, and they do really well. It may feel like a bump in the road, but that's also an important part of separation. So this is a really meaningful time for kids to start spreading their wings and exerting their own independence. And so a little of this is okay. We certainly watch for the kids who get into trouble a little bit more serious than just the typical feeling like they're missing home.
Thank you. And I would just add that we structure things at Hill in a way that sort of avoids some of that. So one big thing we do is seated meals. And, in some schools, one of the most difficult things to do is to walk into the dining room or the cafeteria and find someone to sit with, and it feels very awkward. We take that awkwardness away. You know where you're going to sit, you know who you're sitting with, there's an adult at the table with you. And so those moments when you may be missing your family, we really structure those in a way that you might not. So, and there are a lot of campus dogs. How many dogs do you think we have on campus, Dr. Spencer?
40?
At least. We may
What
have,
would you say?
I think there's like 50, maybe 60. And they're all running around all the time. So if you're missing your dog at home, there you go. And lots of little kids too, if you're missing a little sibling. Okay, does HTerm have a grade like on a transcript? The answer to that is no. HTerm is for enrichment only. Is a desktop in the dorm allowed to be a gaming desktop for use in off hours or on weekends? I'm showing my age here, Dr. Spencer. I don't know the difference between a desktop computer and a gaming desktop computer. I guess it has something to do with power and graphics and speed. I think that's a question for someone else. I'm sorry. But generally speaking, we try to discourage gaming and staying in your room. We really want you to get out there. And so if having a gaming computer means that you're going to be in your room more often, I'm going to say I discourage it. I'm not going to outright say I prohibit it. Okay, can we bring LED lights, twinkle lights? Are they considered a fire hazard? You'd have to check the room list. I think those are considered a fire hazard. So how many of the fall session weekends are closed? To confirm, students may not attend club sports off campus on closed weekends. Thank you. This is all very helpful. I don't know the exact number. Again, it's about 1/3 of the weekends are closed weekends and roughly 2/3 are open. That may be a little different term to term. Fall, we may have a few more closed weekends in the fall because of Lawrenceville weekend and Parents Weekend and that sort of thing. And I think on a closed weekend, you can participate in club sports, but again, you have to get permission from the athletic department and the dean's office. Do you take normal classes during HTerm also? Nope. During the HTerm, you're just taking your intensives or your independent programming. We've answered all of our questions, Dr. Spencer. Oh, no. One popped up. I got to talk more quickly. Are day students allowed on campus during closed weekends? Yes. Closed weekends just mean that boarders can't go home. Most of our closed weekends are community weekends, and so there are lots of activities. There's pep rallies, there's big tournaments, volleyball tournaments, House Cup. And so the whole idea is that we want as many of our students on campus as possible on the weekends. The only difference for day students really is that there's no public school transportation provided on weekends, so you'll have to get there on your own. All right, here we go. Thank you, Mr. Lehman, Dr. Spencer. You answered many great questions. Very much appreciated. Enjoy your quiet period. That's a great note to end on, don't you think?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Again, there is lots of information on our website on the FAQ page. More information will be coming you directly by email. You'll get a lot of information in the next couple of weeks. It'll be a little quieter in July. It won't be silent. It's a quiet period, sort of like a whisper period. And then August, we'll ramp things up and you'll hear everything you need to know, and we'll all get very excited for a terrific year ahead. Dr. Spencer, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you looking forward to a normal year?
Oh, 10 plus. Let's go 11.
11.
Yeah.
I would agree. All right, everybody. Have a great summer. We'll see you in fall. Go Hill, and welcome to the Hill community. Good night.